everyone, and welcome back to the channel where your likes, comments, and subs are always greatly appreciated. In front of me, I have the Zoom LiveTrak L6 mixer / multi-track recorder. I've been using this device for the past week, on and off, kind of exploring its features. If you have any general questions about its core functionality, I did make a first impressions video of the device where I unboxed the unit and I walked through all of those core mixer functions that you see on the face of the unit. If you have general questions, I suggest you start there. I will put a link in the description below here. But for this video, I just wanted to focus on these three buttons over here, which are the scene settings for the L6 unit. Because as I've been using it, I think it's really important to appreciate what these three buttons do, as well as some of the almost annoying features that I found while using this unit, and one of the remedies that I have for that. If you've just purchased an L6 unit, right after you take it out of the box, I do have one tip for you. So let's go ahead and get started on what you should do to use the scene buttons over here on the right side of the L6 device. So what do the scene settings do? They save and recall information that's encoded in these digital encoders for the L6. So all the digital parameters that are saved on the L6 can be, for the most part, saved in a scene and then recalled in the scene. What you cannot recall are these knobs down here, which are just physical knobs that have a little physical marking on them. There's nothing digitally encoded to them, so these scene settings are not going to control the monitor out, the master out, the effect return out, and the sound pad volume. But they will, save everything that is stored in the encoders down here, which includes all of the EQ settings, the high, the low, as well as the mid and its sweepable mid frequency part, the auxiliary sends. So if you want to send any of those channels to one of the aux send 1 or aux send 2, the pan levels for the individual channels, the levels, the overall volume levels for the individual channels, and the effect volumes for the individual channels. So you can see that I've got settings applied here for all of these channels, but I could recall a scene, which would be my scene A, by just touching it, and it goes back to whatever scene A was. I can overwrite anything on scene A simply by holding down the button. It'll flash really fast, and now scene A is stored as that new set of parameters. You can see it gets recalled here by the way that the encoders flash back on their individual levels for those parameters. It will also recall whatever my effect type was. So if I hit A here, it moves it back up to the hall reverb that I have on the top. So you can save an unlimited amount of time. So you could save and overwrite and overwrite and overwrite. But once you start using it, it will light up these buttons. As you can see, my B button is not lit up. I have not saved anything there. Now, you cannot delete any scenes. So once you start saving your scenes, you'll light up these pads red, and they'll glow from a bright red if you're on that scene to a flashing red if you change something, or a faint red if it was a scene from multiple times ago. If you never used it, it is not lit up. But one of the interesting things is if I move my encoders down, so you can see that I've only got these two lit up on 5 and 6, and I power down the unit. Let's completely shut it off and then turn it back on. And it doesn't matter if I pull the power source out or not. What you can see is that when I return, I'm back to whatever my last settings were when I powered down the device. So it will remember whatever your last settings are, for better or for worse. So when I've been using this over the past week, what I've discovered is I'll be playing something at night, working on a jam. It's great, but I'm done with it and I go to bed. When I come back the next day, I pick up a different instrument, plug it into the mixer, and when I turn it on, all my old settings are set. And I have to now spend some time going back to fixing my old settings. So what I highly recommend that you do is that when you first take this thing out of the box, if you've just purchased it, is that you save a setting for scene number 3 or C here. And I save it as C to remind myself that it's clear. And this was going to clear any of the parameters that I may have an effect on, I may have EQ settings for, and it brings everything back to clear or to 0. So for here, I've got my EQs zeroed out and flat. I've got my panning levels flat. I've got my overall levels turned all the way down, and my aux sends are turned all the way down as well. So if you always have C saved as like your baseline clear, it makes your life a whole lot easier when you turn this thing on the next day or 3 weeks later and you're hooking up brand new instruments and you don't want to have to fiddle with all of the parameters that you were working on for your last project, since it doesn't really save projects here. It's a compact mixing board. So I highly recommend that you just save C, or manually go in here and turn everything down and center everything out if you've already been using the device, and then save your scene C as clear. It'll make your life a lot easier. Okay, that's all I want to cover in this video. I'll see you again next time. All right, thanks. Goodbye.